Wheel of Genre, the show for readers who like their fiction the way they like their amphibians. Cold-blooded. Right now we are reading every short story in Ann and Jeff VanderMeer's The Weird Anthology, including this one, Julio Cortázar's Axolotl. I'm Zach, and this week I am really interested in the narrative shift that happens in this. I guess that's what anyone and everyone is probably interested in. I could have found something a little bit more unique to talk about.
Well, no, I think this is a very interesting thing you pointed out. I'm Bob. Zach, nice to meet you. And I think it's very interesting too. Sorry, I don't know why that happened. I think it's very interesting where you have the weird kind of looking back at you, and then you become the weird. We've been really interested in this idea throughout this anthology, and that seems to be one thing that VanderMeer's highlighted is obsession, going too far into an obsession. And we've seen many characters not just obsessing and their life kind of crumbles apart, but they cease to have their own agency. They become like an agent of the weird. And even though this is about a cute little axolotl, I guess in Dune they're not very cute, but it's a cute little creature, but something is, I think, menacing, to the depth of your existence menacing. It's a very weirdly existential story.
Yes. Well, before we dive in, Bob, what do we know about Cortázar?
So again, like our last story, he was also a part of the Latin American boom. He has the look of like the author. He is so cool. So I want to read a lot more of him. I've heard really, really great things. And there's a great video by Jorge's Corner, and he was saying that Cortázar is one of his favorite authors. And he said, you know what? He tried every genre and even wrote in unclassifiable genres. I think when people try all of these different genres and really commit themselves to it, it's really cool. I think Cortázar, we have to pay more attention. We have to read a lot of his books. I think we need to put the work into it.
I think you're 100% right. Cortázar was the premier translator of Edgar Allan Poe into Spanish. So some people, maybe I would include myself in that, are very interested in how, like, if you sit down and you translate multiple volumes of work from a single author, like how that serves as like a training school, getting the reps in for writing. And I don't know, I'm not familiar enough with Poe to really draw those connections, but those who are say that they're there. And I think that's really, really fun and really cool. But one thing I do want to point out is that Borges, our boy Borges, was his mentor in writing. And you can maybe this story isn't the best example of that literary influence, but he wrote another book called Hopscotch, which I think is really, really interesting. It's 155 chapters long. And the idea is, you could read it sequentially from chapter 1 through 155, or you could use a kind of like guide at the start of it to hopscotch through different chapters, jumping around the book. And it's like a different narrative depending on how you do that. But if you do that, if you take that random order through it, it actually ends on a recursive loop and just never completes itself. So for myself, I'm begging you, Bob, that we do just like a month of like experimental or postmodern fiction and tackle this book.
I think Hopscotch sounds really great. Yes, 100%. I want to see more how, like you said, Poe, how influential is Poe on him? Poe seems to be quite a weird writer, at least, very horror writer, but he seems to be weird too. And I think this story, while it is, it's a guy, he goes to an aquarium, he goes to the zoo, and he's like, okay, well, the panther's asleep. What am I going to do? The tigers seem lazy. These other animals aren't interesting. I'm going to go to the aquarium. And he doesn't go to see the bigger fish. He just sees these little tiny axolotls. And as he stares into their eyes, this is where I think it starts to get quite weird and maybe resembles Poe in a way. It's that obsession part, I think, because as he goes here, he stares at the axolotls for hours upon hours upon hours. He has some great lines that he tells us. He says, "They kept gazing at me from an unfathomable depth that gave me vertigo." So he's staring into it, and it's almost like it's hypnotizing him, or he's losing his grounding, he's losing his foundation. And then the guard even notices, like, this is odd. He says, "You're eating them with your eyes," laughing. probably believing me a little insane.
Yeah.
But he says also it's happening back to him. He says, no, didn't he know that they devoured me with their eyes in a cannibalism of gold? It feels like someone coming unhinged, like a Poe story.
Speaking of eating them with their eyes, totally anecdotal, but I was listening to a podcast about axolotls, and they were interviewing people in the last remaining area where axolotls are native. And actually, back before they were critically endangered, a lot of people caught and ate them for food. And you could get, in this one man's childhood, axolotl tamales. So,
sounds good.
If you ever get a time machine, all this could be yours, Bob.
Were you sure they were interviewing people or axolotls, Zach? That was stupid. Just
I was like, I'm not sure I get it. That's okay.
Because they become a person. Anyway.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yep. I gotcha.
It was stupid.
No, I like the explanation.
I got a transition.
But it ties in. It ties in because the best. This story is one of my favorite opening lines, opening paragraph. However you want to spin this. There was a time when I thought quite often about the axolotl. I used to go and see them in the aquarium of the Jardin des Plantes and remain for hours captivated, gazing at them, observing their immobility, their indistinct movements. Now I too am an axolotl, and I love that. I love that because it's like right off the bat. Not only does this first paragraph tell you everything there is to know about this story, it really delivers the entire plot to you, start to finish, but you also are set up immediately not trusting, not believing the narrator.
This element reminded me a lot of Bruno Schultz when we read, what is it called? The Sanatorium Under the Sign of the Hourglass, where we were thinking, okay, maybe dreams, or at least the kind of narration style of a dream or the narration of thoughts, if they can if they can dictate the architecture of the story going forward, like dreams are the plot, thinking is the plot, imagination is the plot. I wonder, there was a lot of someone being dead and then alive and then dead and then alive, his father in that story. There is also the bookbinder who is a dog. He's an Alsatian, and then he's a bookbinder, and then he's a dog, and then he's a bookbinder. It's hard to tell what is really happening. And this is similar in this story where the narrator says, I became an axolotl, and then he narrates to us how he became an axolotl, but he is still an axolotl looking at himself. So it's almost impossible to tell exactly what has happened. Are they both like, is it a consciousness that's been partitioned and now it's in the axolotl and it's in him, and now they can separate, part ways, and they just forget who they were. They grow up to be new people, like Ghost Bird in the Annihilation series, the Southern Reach tetralogy. I think it's very interesting. The weird, you can't tell anymore where you begin and the weird ends, or where you end and the weird begins.
Yeah, and I like that. I like the idea of like meditating upon something so deep. It's like a meditation technique. Find one detail and just focus on it. Try to pin it down, Well, what would happen if you focused on a detail so hard that suddenly you were staring back at yourself from the perspective of that one object, which you were, and you recognize that the essence of that object was now the thing behind your eyes staring at you, I don't think I've ever seen this move made in a piece of literature before. And I think that's what makes it cool.
It's pretty cool. I think Jeff VanderMeer is toying with it, but it's not explicitly told to us. We just have like these clear eyeballs inside of other animals staring back at someone else. And it's unclear if it's just, the DNA shifting, or if it really is that person has been like copied, made into a double of themselves and now staring back at themselves. You just can't really talk to these things because they become beasts or trees or floating like weird seal things that fly through the sky. But I was thinking the same thing. If you meditate too hard and you become the butterfly dreaming you're a man, I wonder, is it a triumph or is it a tragedy to have done this? If that was your goal, because he really wants this, he loves the axolotls, he can't look away, and he's just wondering what is their life like, and to him it might feel like a success. But I wonder, in the John Silence stories, it's always a danger to go too far. in the final one, was it the
A
higher
victim of
space?
higher space. Yeah.
Victim of higher space. He warns the man. He's like, well, okay, you have really achieved something here. You've gone to another dimension. You seem to be able to discover things none of us are able to discover. Should you be a trailblazer and go find these truths, or will it just destroy you? And I wonder for this guy too, he has found the truth of the axolotl, but he has also like found a truth of kind of a connected, how would you even describe this? A kind of a connected existence. You have your eyes projecting into something else, and then there's a merger between the two, and there's no longer any distinction between your subjective reality and the objective reality because they have blended or switched. So it feels like a great achievement, but it also, he's an axolotl trapped in a tank. So good thing or bad thing?
Yeah. Well, okay. So this brings up the main question I had with this that I wanted to ask you about, because do you think we're supposed to understand this transformation, this metamorphosis, figuratively or literally? Because if we're supposed to understand it literally, then I think we can safely categorize this as like, weird fiction. But it seems to me that the transformation itself has some kind of existential meaning to it, in the sense of like, it's very Smashing Pumpkins coded, very like, despite all my rage, I'm still just a rat in a cage. You know what I mean?
Yes. Billy Corgan, despite all my rage. I was thinking about that too. Is it just because it's weird fiction? You can leave it ambiguous. Is it literal or is it figurative? Or, is it the imagination or is it, sorry, obviously it's the imagination. Has it really happened or is it in this person's mind is what I'm trying to say. That feels like a weird fiction element, but I think it's also just capital W weird. It's interested in that, like what happens really if you do switch brains, not just if you switch, because you're not switching brains. It's not Freaky Friday, but it is like, there's just something between I'm trying to imagine this happening and now it's happened and I can never go back. You've imagined, like you said, something so deeply that you have changed reality itself. And I feel like this could eventually happen, which is kind of frightening because when you play a video game, you could switch different avatars, you can switch different characters, and by your controls, you change a lot. I mean, you're still playing, you're trying to win, but you know how to operate with these different characters. You know that your game style, your style of playing needs to switch a little bit. Like imagine Super Smash Brothers, you know how you have to play a different character, whoever you're playing. Eventually, if we have an ability to put something more than just our thumbs into a game, what happens when we do switch characters? Like, to what extent would we be changed?
God help us if we could ever put something more than our thumbs into a game.
It's around the corner, I think. People tell me of the Google Glass. Recently, I've gotten so old, someone said, do you know what Facebook is? It's like, yeah, I mean... I'm not 95, but thanks for asking.
That's funny. Yeah, I'm having people give me basic tutorials on Chinese like social networks, and it's just it kills me being in this position of
hey, old man. Yeah.
What do you mean you don't know what Billy is? Okay. I'll say one last thing on my end, which is that I love that this is given a named setting, the Jardin des Plantes. I said that with a Spanish accent, but actually it is a botanical museum in France. He was living in Paris at the time of writing this, working as a translator. So next time you and I are walking along the Seine River, next time, we need to pop into this museum and check out the axolotl tanks.
We're already there, Zach.
Talk to you later, Bob.
So has a gecko sound, not an axolotl sound. Our house has a gecko right now, and none of us know what to do about it. It's somewhere in here, Zach.